We've got an empty tank in the gallery. Today we're going to do an aquascaping tutorial on Sanson Iwagumi. The tank we're working on today is the Oase Scaperline 60. This is a 60 centimetre long by 35 by 35. Lava base is literally just crushed up lava. It's brilliant for gaining height in an aquarium, but the main point of it is to use it for beneficial bacteria. We need as much bacteria underneath this substrate as possible. This is to help with the cycle, so when a fish has a poo, it goes ammonia, nitrite, nitrate. We need it to break down them nutrients as fast as possible, so then the roots of the plants can use the nutrients fast. What I'm doing here is I'm just brushing it all to the back because we don't want any of them little bits coming forward because it doesn't look as uniform and we want it to keep it nice and neat. That's just my OCD kicking in. The thing we're using is the Oase Scaper soil. We've used this previously actually, and it's a really good soil to use, very user friendly. I'm going to put that right at the very front and then I'm going to pull it back over the top of the lava soil. Elderly stone, this is a new stone I've not used before, but I fell in love with it as soon as it came into the shop. It's got a lot of different colour and contrast, loads of detail to it, and it's such a nice looking stone. We're going to do a Sanson Iwagumi. This one's going to be a 3-stone Iwagumi layout. I personally really love Iwagumis. I'm not an expert by any means, but I love them. But what I used to get stressed out with all the time is getting the stones right. And I think a lot of it is, as humans, we overthink stuff. Where with Iwagumis, it's kind of get the stone in there and then they look completely different once they're planted. They do look a bit empty when you're first doing them. But a little bit of trial and error and you'll get better and better at Iwagumis. So as you can see, I made a massive boo-boo right there. Have you seen that the rocks look very similar in height, and that is not what we want. We want the left stone, so that's going to be our keystone. We want that higher, so what I'm doing now is I'm just putting in a prop stone. I'm doing a little bit of cheating right now. General Iwagumis, so Sanson like this, they have to be odd numbers. So you have a 3-stone Iwagumi, so that's what this one's going to be. And then you can get 5-stone. Anything over 5-stone, it kind of doesn't really matter because there's that many stones in there. Your eye kind of just blends it in anyway. My trick is with this is that I've put that prop stone underneath, and that's just to help lift this keystone up a bit more. What I'm going to do is I'm going to blend them two together to make it not look like 2 separate stones. Well, that's my plan anyway. As you'll also notice as well is that the stones I picked, always get as much detail as you can and get them details on shore. Now what I'm doing is I'm just pulling all the soil back, and that is to cap that lava soil because we don't want to see that and it's hard to plant into just on its own. We put a soil over the top. This is like I was saying before, the Oase Scaper soil. And we're just pulling it all the way back, and what that is, it's just trapping in all them rocks so they don't shift. Because, God forbid it, if that big keystone falls and goes straight into that front panel, we'll have a big problem. What I'm doing is just packing it out. Now we're going to come over with a powder soil. And this is to help with the carping plants that I'm going to use. Because they've got smaller root systems, we need them to grip onto something. What we've found previously is using a normal soil, like the one we've used in the back there to gain the height, is when you're putting in a small carpeting plant, sometimes the roots don't take to it as good. So we use this powder soil and then the roots will definitely sit in there and grip onto this soil. As you can see there, getting back to the stone layout that we were talking about, it's a 4 stone at the moment. So on the left hand side, we're going to change that up. I'm going to make that look like one piece. And this is how we're going to do it. These new detailing gravels that we've got are absolutely brilliant. They blend into so many stones, it is insane. I've popped this in here, and as you can see, I'm just filling out that gap, because in nature you wouldn't see just like a rock protruding out. It just wouldn't happen. My strategy here is that bits of shard of stones come off it and it's crumbled down it, and that's kind of how I'm blending it into one big stone. The trick is with this as well is that if you're doing something on one side of the tank, you want to do it on the other side of the tank as well, and that's just to make it flow a lot better. That Galaxy gravel is honestly, it's brilliant. It works with Sirius stone, black lava stone, dark elderly stone, just any grey to dark type of stone. It really, really works well. This next trick, I've done this once before and I weren't going to do it on this, but the more I looked at this tank, the more I thought this is all going to slope down, because it's a lot of soil and I've ramped it up quite a bit. Well, if you look there, it's about halfway up the tank. I was a bit worried that once it all starts rooting out, it's going to start pulling it all forward. What I'm doing here is that I'm cutting strips of plastic and using them as like a substrate support, I suppose. Planting. Love planting. This is where an Iwagumi layout really comes together. The plants we're using on this scape are ADA plants. Just because value for money, they're absolutely insane. The portion sizes are phenomenal and the quality of them are amazing as well. What you will notice with a few ADA plants is that if they're going to grow big, they provide them in a bigger cup as well. So if you wanted them to grow a little bit more, just leave them in the cup in a cool but light area. They will grow in that cup to max out the cup as well. First plant up in the Iwagumi is the ADA Monte Carlo. As I was saying before, the portion sizes are really, really good. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to use all ADA plants on this, because why not? With Monte Carlo, one of the easiest carping plants, clover-like shape, beautiful little plant. What I'm doing is that I'm just spacing them out around about 1 inch to 1.5 inches away from each other, and this just helps with it spreading. What we find with Monte Carlo, it wants to grow upwards first, so as soon as the little plantlets grow up, chop it and then it'll learn to go sideways. So the idea with this layout is a traditional style Iwagumi. So this isn't going to be super uniformed. We want it to look as natural as possible. So what I'm doing is that I'm just dotting this Monte Carlo around, and I'm going to come up to round about the mid-ground, I would say, with this. We're going to plant some hair grass in there as well, just to blend it all together. We've got Eleocharis Aquascape, so this is the medium Eleocharis, so this can get from like 10 to 20 centimeters. The good thing with this plant though is that you can trim it, so it's not that fussy. What is ideally what I'm after with this tank, because as it evolves, it's going to end up getting more and more dense, and I want it so I can chop it if I need to. So as you can see, I'm just putting it in between the Monte Carlo, and this is to kind of make it look a bit more natural. The big stone at the front, I know a lot of viewers would have thought, wow, that's a big stone for the front, but I wanted to show quite a powerful, like a high impact, big powerful scape, but with just 3 stones. So I picked that one just on detail, but to soften it up and to not make it look too bold and to take it away from that keystone on the left, is that I've put some grasses at the front, because in nature, if there was a rock in a field, the grasses would grow around it and it just makes it flow and look a bit more natural. So as you can see on the left and the right hand side, I've brought that Eleocharis down, and that's to kind of blend in and to emerge into Monte Carlo and to kind of have a nicer flow, instead of it just being like a dense wall of carpeting plants. I want it to blend. Next one up is Montedevensis, or Eleocharis again. This is the tallest one in the Eleocharis family. It's the same thickness as Eleocharis, the smaller one at the front there, the Aquarius. I can never say that right. I'm probably, you know, probably viewers are laughing at me now, but the Montedevensis is the taller one. Same thickness blade, but a lot longer plant. And this is to kind of create a bit more height at the back. But again, it blends in really, really well because I want it to flow nicely. I only put one pot of this in, and this is just to kind of spread out along the back. I've used it before previously, but I've used it with other plants. So what I've done is I played it safe on this one. I added another plant in there as well, just to create a bit more height and to thicken it out a little bit more and to give it a bit more interest. If you think about it, you've got your Monte Carlo, what's like a clover, then you've just got the thin bladed grass. I wanted to add a thicker texture in there as well, just to kind of bring a different colours and a thicker texture, just to give it a bit more interest. And my plant of choice is the ADA Cyperus Helferi, an absolutely amazing plant to work with. It has thin blades. It's very similar to Vallis, but it doesn't take off as crazy and it's more controlled. It kind of goes really, really well in this sort of style scape. I purposely picked a lot of thin bladed plants because I wanted to keep the boldness of them rocks as well. What I'm doing now is I'm just finishing off the back there. How it's going to work is that from the middle to the outer edges on the back going to be stepped down. So I'm mixing the two there. So I've got Eleocharis plus Montedevensis, what is just going to transition it down very, very gently. The whole point in this scape as well was to kind of keep it maintenance free as much as possible. We don't want to be every 2 seconds getting scissors in there and chopping it. I kind of just want it to just go a bit crazy and just do what nature intends it to do. 4 weeks later, and here we are. Look at the results. The plant mass is really starting to take off now. Got the Montedevensis that's starting to grow up. We've got the Monte Carlo that is carpeting out nicely. The livestock are absolutely loving it. As far as issues go with this aquarium since the beginning, we've not had much. We had the tiniest bit of diet on, but we kept on top of cleaning that as soon as we noticed it. And then once the cleanup crew go in there, then they take care of that for us. But after the creative process of the hardscape and the planting, we perform 50% water changes every day for 2 weeks. And then after the 2 weeks, we go down to once a week, 50%. If we start noticing diatoms or algae turning up, then we'll do a little bit more frequent water changing to help it get through them early stages. Equipment-wise, we are running a Scaperline 60 aquarium. We've also got the Scaperline 60 grey cabinet. Inside, we have a CO2 bottle with a regulator. We also have the Biomaster 250 thermo. Livestock in this tank, I've gone for a nice schooling fish, what stays really small, and that is the lamb chop rasbora. It's very similar to a harlequin rasbora, but it stays nice and small. Other fish are ottocinclus. These are a brilliant cleanup crew. They go around eating the biofilm and the algae off rocks and flat surfaces. Inverts, we have the fancy black tigers and the Mano shrimp. If you've liked this Iwagumi tutorial, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, and we shall see you on the next one. Manually via water changes, we will do so. So we clean all the glass, we check over that is so loud. Ah yeah, you're alright, okay. Thank you.
Are you in the middle of your video?
Yeah, that scared me to death as well.